Now that the 2024 NFL Draft has come and gone, let's update the Commanders' depth charts here, or the projected depth charts here, so to speak, for the Washington Commanders heading into the 2024 offseason program. Definitely some shifts going on here, and definitely some interesting dynamics to talk about on today's show. But before we get into it, make sure you go down there in the comments section and type "Raise Hail." That is the new catchphrase of this new regime for the Washington Commanders. So type that down there in the comments if you are excited and optimistic and hopeful for the future of the Washington Commanders football club. I know that I am. If you are as well, go down there and type "Raise Hail." All right, now let's get into the quarterbacks here. I think we all assume here that Jayden Daniels is going to be the starting quarterback week one for the Commanders here. Now, I'm sure Marcus Mariota is going to be at the top of the first depth chart, and he's going to have to, quote-unquote, earn it here, but I don't have any qualms about that. I know Jayden Daniels is going to be coming in here. He's going to be working his butt off. He's going to earn the respect of the locker room, and by the end of camp, it's going to be extremely obvious who the best quarterback on this roster is. He's going to be the week one starter, in my opinion. But really, I think the really interesting dynamic here is who's going to be quarterback number 3. Will it be Jeff Driscoll, who they brought in? He has a little bit of starting experience. Will it be Commanders preseason legend Jake Fromm, who's had some nice preseason moments in the past? Or could it be Sam Hartman, the undrafted free agent that they gave a pretty decent signing bonus to come to the Washington Commanders? Do they believe in Hartman as a potential backup option here? We're going to figure it out during training camp, but I think it's pretty darn safe to say at this point, I feel pretty good that Jayden Daniels will be QB1 and Marcus Mariota will be QB2. So speaking of Jayden Daniels here, in his rookie season, will it be over or under 19.5 touchdowns? Do you think he gets to that 20 mark in his first season as the Commanders quarterback? Type O for over or type U for under. I'm going to go with the over here, guys. I think that he's going to get over 20, especially if you account with his legs and what he's going to be able to do as a rusher. But let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section for today's pinned comment. YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. When that happens, take advantage of that time by let me know over or under. Let me get to the running backs here. I do think Brian Robinson Jr. is going to retain his spot as the number one running back. Austin Eckler will be kind of more of the scat back. He is getting older. He lost a little bit of his speed last year, so maybe in a reduced role on third downs, this sort of thing. I think that he's going to be able to be a really reliable option as a receiving threat and as a scat back and as a pass protector as well on third downs. So he might get a little second down work here and there, maybe some first down work as well. But Brian Robinson Jr., I do think B-Rob is going to be that main guy. Somebody to keep your eye on here, Chris Rodriguez Jr., draft pick out of Kentucky last year, really showed some good things towards the end of the season when he got some opportunities. So look for Rodriguez to maybe even usurp Eckler as the number 2 running back by the end of the season. You also have Jeremy McNichols, Michael Wiley, and Austin Jones as the other running backs in the room as it's currently constructed. Then you get to the wide receivers here, and I do like what the Commanders have here. You do have Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson, De'Ami Brown. You got some good options here. Now, we do have Luke McCaffrey at wide receiver 4. Producer Cole, I think this is a depth 4, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong here, but I think we had Luke McCaffrey as the number 4 receiver because Cliff Kingsbury, the offensive coordinator, is going to do some interesting things here when it comes to 4 receiver sets. He likes to spread things out, so Luke McCaffrey could be that 4th receiver that gets on the field. Here we go. We got the right graphic here. Luke McCaffrey, I do think because he's that bigger slot receiver, could find his way on the field very early. You also have Dax Milne, Zacchaeus. You got Jamison Crowder, who has tons of experience in the slot as well. I'm a big fan of Mitchell Tinsley. You got some really nice pieces here in the wide receiver room if you are the Washington Commanders. Then in terms of other pass catchers here, kind of the bigger bodies, the tight ends, Zach Ertz is going to be your number 1 tight end this year, more of your true receiving threat and red zone threat here, I guess you can call him. But Ben Sinnott out of Kansas State, 3rd-round pick, is going to be right on his heels. And listen, man, I don't expect him to have like a monster rookie season. Tight ends usually don't have big seasons in their first year unless you're Sam Laporta. But Sinnott is somebody that has all the tools to eventually be what Zach Ertz, what we're hoping he's going to be for this offense this year. So I do think Ertz is firmly in that number 1 tight end spot for this season. But watch out for Sinnott to really rise up the ranks in the years to come. You also have John Bates, Cole Turner, Armani Rogers. I think that's going to be a very interesting competition for that number 3 tight end spot. And then also Colson Yankoff, an undrafted free agent rounds out the room there. So coming up here, I'm going to be talking about the offensive line and what I'm expecting from that unit heading into the 2024 season. But before we get into all of that, let's have a word from our sponsor here at Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS or download the Prize Picks app today and use our code CLNS for a first-time deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks has specials for new and returning users alike for the start of the MLB season. And listen, guys, football season has been over for quite a while now, and now NFL draft season is over. I know I'm just as sad about it as you are, but the action on the diamond is just heating up. Get in on the excitement with our friends at Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app, where you can turn your baseball knowledge into serious cash. That is, if you know ball. Here's my projections for today's MLB action. You can get yours in right now. As you guys can see, all you have to do to play is they got a bunch of options on there with players and then stat projections, and all you got to do is pick more or less. And if you get three, 4, 5, 6 in a row, right? You're going to make a lot of money, all right? So it's absolutely fantastic. So the MLB season is now off and running, and you can pick more or less right now to make some money from the comfort of your couch while you watch your favorite team play every single night. Prize Picks is super simple. Like we talked about, guys, all you have to do is pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and then watch the winnings roll in. Get started now if you haven't already at prizepicks.com/CLNS or download the Prize Picks app today and use our code CLNS for a first-time deposit match up to $100. With our friends at Prize Picks, you can pick more or you can pick less. It's that easy. All right, so now let's talk about the offensive line, because this is the unit that does concern me with this football team yet again. If you've been subscribed to the channel for quite a while, last offseason to be precise, you guys knew that I was kind of warning everybody this offensive line doesn't look very good and Sam Howell might be in big trouble and it might derail the Commanders season. And of course, I mean, the offensive line was terrible. Sam had no time to throw, and you still have a lot of you still have some pretty let's just say unremarkable aspects to this offensive line. Andrew Wiley was awful at right tackle last year. Lots of very quick pressures given up in pass protection. But you're paying him too much money, so they got to start him at right tackle this year. I don't love that. Tyler Biadasz is fine, but he's more of like an average to maybe even slightly below average starting center. That's an unremarkable signing to me. I love Sam Cosmi at right guard, but that's really the only thing that I love about this line. I like Nick Allegretti. I think he's super tough. I think he fits the culture, but he's never been a full-time starter in an NFL season, ever. No, he's a Super Bowl champion. He was a starter for the Kansas City Chiefs during their playoff run, but is he going to be somebody that can come in and be a true rock at left guard like we need him to? I'm not too sure about that. And then left tackle is a big question mark with Brandon Coleman coming in. Had a really rough 2023 season on film, really poor balance, really poor hand placement. Now, he was playing with an injury, but he was apparently fully healthy for the Senior Bowl this year, and he was one of the worst tackles in Mobile in terms of the one-on-ones. He was taking losses left and right, and he just can't do that in the National Football League as the starting left tackle. So this is a unit that does worry me a little bit here if they don't make the proper fixes, but let me know down there in the comments section. Grade Washington's offensive line as of right now. Do you give it an A, a B, a C, a D, or an F? Right now, guys, I have to give it a D, just because I have a huge question mark at the most important position on the line at left tackle. The guys that you're bringing in, and Nick Allegretti and Tyler Biadasz, I mean, they're not high-end players, and you still have one of the biggest holes from your team last year, and Andrew Wiley still slated to be a starter on the other bookend of the offensive line. So there's a lot of problems still here with this offensive line. It has gotten better, I will say that, but to go from an F last year to a D isn't exactly the kind of monumental shift that I was hoping to see heading into the 2024 season. So hopefully Brandon Coleman and some of these other guys that they brought in prove me wrong here and really develop the chemistry and the ability to protect Jayden Daniels in his first year in the league. So now let's go on to the defense here. So we finished with the offensive line. For the offense, let's start with the trenches on the defensive line this time around. Now, you guys know I'm not the biggest fan of the way that this team has addressed the edge rusher position. Dorrance Armstrong has been essentially a rotational player there with the Dallas Cowboys, and they're trusting him to be their number one edge rusher. All right, that is scary to me, You also have Cleveland Ferrell, Dante Fowler Jr., KJ Henry, a bunch of guys that are like okay, in rotational roles, but they're not true starters. And, when they traded Montez Sweat and Chase Young, you really expected them to really attack this position this offseason, and they just haven't. And the position that they really have attacked is defensive tackle, where it's actually really nice. Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne, highly paid, highly effective defensive tackle duo, and then they spent a really high draft pick on Johnny Newton, a really good pass rusher from the interior at number 36 overall, which is a good pick in terms of value. But really, this defensive line is really going to be relying on the interior guys to get that pressure. And then also, I think Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr., they're going to have to get creative with the way that they do all these blitz packages that they did there in Dallas, and to try to create pressure outside of just winning these one-on-one matchups with the edge rushers, because I just don't think they're going to be able to do that. But good news for the Commanders defense, they have a really good group of inside linebackers to move around, to blitz, to do a bunch of different things with, to creeper pressures, simulated pressures. They can do a bunch of different stuff with the kind of linebackers that they got in free agency this year. Bobby Wagner, I believe he's like a 10-time straight All-Pro. I mean, it's just like this guy is just the epitome of consistency in the National Football League in terms of just being the top of the top for a decade straight. Plus, he's a great locker room leader. He's going to be a fantastic fit here. Frankie Louvu is a great blitzer. I think they're going to use him a lot as a blitzer up the middle. Then you got Jamin Davis, who I think is an excellent athlete, and as a number 3 linebacker is going to be one of the best third linebackers in the National Football League, in my opinion. You also have some nice backup options in case one of these guys gets hurt. Anthony Pittman, Mykal Walker. Of course, they got Jordan McGee out of Temple in the draft this year. He's got a lot of upside. So I really like the linebacking group here. And then we get to the corners, and I like this group less. But there's definitely some potential here. I love Mike Sainristil as the slot cornerback of the future. Can blitz him off the edge, so that's going to help the edge rushers here in this defense as well. Emmanuel Forbes, you're really, really hoping that he can bounce back after a really rough rookie campaign. You still have Benjamin St-Juste here. Michael Davis was their signing in free agency. Overall, I still think this is probably one of the worst cornerback rooms in the National Football League in terms of overall talent, unless Emmanuel Forbes can really come out of nowhere here and really become a true number 1 option. You guys know I'm a big component of an advocate for them to go out and get another corner in free agency to kind of round out the room. But then in the safety room, I like what they have here as well. Derek Forrest, I really like him, man. He dealt with that injury last year. It's going to be interesting to see how that affects his play this year. Jartavius Martin, I believe that they will be moving him to a true safety role where they kind of tried to put him in the slot. Last year, it didn't really work out. He really struggled in man coverage. But then you got Jeremy Chinn in free agency, who I think is a great, strong safety. He's a bigger box safety type. That's how he's going to be used in this defense. Now, he is getting a little bit older, but I do think he'll be effective on his 1-year contract. And you have some very interesting young players kind of backing up Jeremy Chinn at strong safety that could be the future of that position. Now tell me, down there in the comment section, which defensive player are you really excited about heading into the year? I'm really interested to see what you guys are interested in. Are you interested in Johnny Newton? Do you want to see Mike Sainristil? Are you excited about Emmanuel Forbes in his 2nd year? Let me know what you guys are thinking down there in the comments section. And without further ado, guys, what everyone's been waiting for in this video, the special teams depth chart here. Brandon McManus, the new kicker, replacing Joey Sly. Tress Way is still the all-pro caliber punter here in Washington. Then Tyler Ott is the new long snapper, replacing Brandon Cheeseman. I did like the big cheese. I'm not going to lie, as the long snapper. But Tyler Ott, I'm not saying I'm an expert on long snapping, but apparently Ott is pretty darn good, so I think we're in good hands when it comes to the special teams department. That'll be it for today's show, guys. And if you made it to the end of today's program, make sure you type Real One in all caps down there in the comments, because if you made it to the end of today's show, you really helped us out today. It helps out the YouTube algorithm, all that great stuff. So I want to see every single person down there that supported the show today type Real One if you made it to the end of today's show. Make sure you click that subscribe button as well, because if you made it to the end of the show, you obviously enjoyed yourselves. We have videos like this every single day for free. So if you love the Washington Commanders, you want daily coverage on this football team, go ahead and click that subscribe button right now.